mayor and a board of commissioners that is sensitive to the issues of gun violence and violent crime. So much so that in 2020, Mayor Demings actually decided to convene a group that he called the Orange County Citizens Safety Task Force to address the issue. They met, and after meeting for several months with intensive meetings, they came up with 20 recommendations that the Board of Commissioners agreed to. And our mayor, our Board of Commissioners actually committed to the extent that they put millions of dollars so that, in fact, the concepts that the committee came up with, the task force came up with, turned into reality. And then he reconvened the task force again this year. My name is Pastor James Doggett, and I'm a co-chair of the task force, and we're happy to have you on tonight. One of the things that the task force realizes, and so does our mayor and those who are working on the task force, the voice of the people has to be heard. The answers are not all with those who have been called together to come up with recommendations, but in fact, the voice of the people is a major factor in the equation. There are at least two ways that you can speak. The voice of the people can be heard. First of all, I'm going to ask you to make sure that you go ahead and fill out the survey, the crime survey. I'm going to have this right here, and at the tables out there, I believe you'll be able to also get to the QR code, put your camera on your phone on the QR code, and follow the lead. So far, in 1 week's time, over 700 people have responded. Those responses are going to be considered by the task force and be a major factor in determining what, in fact, will happen. So please fill out the survey. The survey is going to be concluded in mid-May, so you've got to hurry up and get it done. That's one of the ways your voice can be heard. A second way your voice can be heard is at the meetings that will be held like tonight's meeting. Tonight is a community meeting where the voice of the community is going to be heard. There are no limits to what you're able to say. We just know that you're very kind people, that you're well able to express yourselves in words that can be heard and received. But you have members of law enforcement here. There are members of the task force who are here. Our mayor, the Honorable Jerry Demings, is going to be here before the meeting is over on tonight. And everything you say is going to go on the internet, various platforms right now. So you are going to be heard and considered. We're going to ask a few things on tonight from those who are here and would like to speak. First of all, we're going to ask you to come forward to this microphone when you speak. You don't have to grab the mic. It's going to pick up your voice, so you don't have to pull it real close to your face or anything, but just come right here. Let us know your name and let us know where you're from. I don't think we have to have your address for the record, but it would be good to know where you're from. And then go ahead and speak. So that everyone can speak, tonight we're going to ask you to limit your comments to approximately 3 minutes. We're not going to be sticklers with it, but if you shoot for 3 minutes, you're not going to go too much over it. We don't want any single person to dominate the discussions tonight. It might be that there are some questions that arise, and we may or may not have the answers to those questions. We mostly want to hear from you. However, we do have Orange County staff, we do have law enforcement, and we also have the task force, some members here, who might be able to address some of your questions. But please don't feel like your questions are being avoided if you have some. Please express yourself well, and it would be wonderful if you gave some suggestions to address some of the problems that you might mention. We're ready to get started now. And we're going to open up the floor for those who might have questions or comments to make. If you have questions or comments, please make your way to the microphone right now, and we are ready to hear from you. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Because my voice doesn't carry. My name is Vicki Vargo, and I live at 3800 Wingfoot Court, 32808. That is Rosemont. So I have several comments. One is a suggestion. Is there any way that law enforcement could do Guns for Shoes quarterly? I'm not sure, but I think right now we're doing it once a year. And it seems to be a really good program, and I can't help but to think that there's a lot of young people out there who get their hands on a gun, and then they go, oh, I really don't want to do this anymore, and they have a gun, they don't know what to do with it but to give it to somebody else. So I'm proposing that if it's possible and to do Guns for Shoes at least quarterly, especially in like the Pine Hills neighborhood where we're seeing so much gun violence. Second, I think we need to get out one of the best kept secrets in West Orange County, or all of Orange County, and that is Valencia College's technical program. So this is the best kept secret in Orange County. So there's hope for people, especially young men, who often are the ones with guns, who do not have a high school diploma, who feel like they have to turn to guns and drugs to make money. So Valencia, and I know this from personal experience, my daughter brought home a friend, a boyfriend, and as you know, it takes a while to get to know him, and then I found out that he got kicked out of Boone High School, not because of bad grades, because he skipped too many classes his senior year. So the first thing I did was run down to W.D. Judd, pulled off all the sheets, said, do you like any of these? And he chose the welding program. You do not have to have a high school degree, and it's for anyone 18 and older. They have grants. You can go for free. This particular person comes from a family that's not wealthy, and he has a full grant, $12,000 grant to go into the welding program. And I think this is for anyone who's mentoring young people, or not even young people, it isn't a matter of age, but you have to be at least 18. This is a way to give people hope, to give young men in particular hope. And in his particular class, there's like 18 slots and only 13 are full. So I really would like for anyone who's mentoring people who, maybe they're seniors in high school, that age group that's so vulnerable, and they just feel their grades aren't good or whatever, and they're not going to graduate. It's not the end of the world. They don't have to turn to guns and drugs to make a living. So I just encourage any way that we could get the word out into our communities about Valencia's technical program. I think it would really be beneficial to give a lot of people hope. The other thing is that I've lived in Rosemont for 29 years, and I go back and forth in between Pine Hills going to West Orange. And in my 29 years, I have never seen an Orange County Deputy's patrol car. Never in 29 years. 4 or 5 years ago, because Rosemont's a 32808 number, and there's a stark difference when you leave Rosemont and cross over into Pine Hills Road as it relates to what the neighborhoods look like. And we see OPD in Rosemont all the time. But I got kind of fed up, so I actually did code enforcement. It took me 4 months. This is like 4 or 5 years ago, of all of 32808. I never saw one single patrol car. So one of the questions is, and I don't expect anybody to answer it, is how many vacancies are there for patrol officers right now? I mean, do we really have the staff that we need? Are there, and I've been told by some people in Pine Hills that, for example, when they call about parking enforcement, like parking in the right-of-way, that the Orange County sheriff's staff say, well, we don't have enough people to, work on those issues to help keep the neighborhood up. So I believe that code enforcement and law enforcement go hand in hand. I very strongly believe in the broken window theory. And in Pine Hills in particular, there's a huge gap in the broken window theory between code enforcement and law enforcement. So I'm not here to criticize the sheriff. I know Sheriff Mina very well from the days when he was on the Orlando Police Department. But number one, do we really have all our vacancies filled? Number two, I haven't seen the presence. I know they're going to probably say we're there, but I don't see them. So anyway, I'll wrap it up. So quarterly Guns for Shoes. Please help get the word out about the wonderful program at Valencia Technical College. It is just amazing. And then number three, we absolutely have to see more patrols in the Pine Hills neighborhood in particular. I mean, 29 years and I've never seen one. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. She broke the ice and she did a good job, didn't she? She articulated very well, and you had it listed so that we absolutely heard those three suggestions that you made. We didn't earlier get an opportunity to introduce those who are here sitting up in the front, and I'm going to ask them if they would introduce themselves now. Task force members and law enforcement. If there are any other task force members, we're going to ask you to stand so that you can be seen. Thank you, thank you. And the staff, Orange County staff, would you please stand also so that you can be seen? We want you to know that you're being heard tonight, those of you who are making comments. Thank you so much. Can you all introduce yourselves, starting right here and going on down, as the next person makes their way to the microphone who wants to make comments? If you can make your way right now.
Hello, good evening. My name is Yolanda Vila, and I work for the Department of Neighborhood Services for Orange County. And tonight, my role is to interpret for anybody who speaks Spanish. I can interpret for them.
Good evening. My name is Twan Payton. I am a retired FBI agent, and I am on the newly member of the task force. I'm glad to be here to listen.
Thank you and welcome. My name's Arnie Amaros. I represent District 4. I'm retired from the New York City Police Department, and I now on this task force on the prosecution and law enforcement side.
Good evening. I'm Daniel Dawson. I'm a retired senior circuit judge in the Orange and Osceola County, and I'm chair of the law enforcement subcommittee.
Good evening, and welcome to the City of Apopka. I'm Mike McKinley. I'm the police chief for the City of Apopka.
I'm Captain Ashley Strange from the Orange County Sheriff's Office. I'm here on behalf of Sheriff John Mina, and I serve on the Enforcement Subcommittee.
Good evening, I'm Nancy Ash. I'm a professor of criminal justice in the United States and at Oxford University in England. And I'm on the Enforcement Committee.
Good evening. My name is Pastor Sabrina Jones. I'm here from Apopka. I represent District 2. And I'm an ex-educator, retired educator.
Thank you so very much. Now, do we have anybody else who is here to make comments? If you could make your way right to the microphone right now, we'll take you first. My friend Big Daddy. Big Daddy. And then we'll go with you next, sir.
My thing is, when you're talking about preventing and reducing gun violence and violent crimes, we're talking about resources. Lack of resources and lack of people on the ground doing what it takes to bring about change in the young ladies and young men's lives. So when I talk about myself, I mean a community, an organization based right here in South Apopka. And I can tell you that the faces that I see when you're talking about representing South Apopka, the people that's in place to represent South Apopka are not doing what they're supposed to do, and not speaking up on issues that need to be spoke upon, or not even giving resources to the people that's actually, like myself and others, that's really out here preventing crime and not having access to facilities, not having access to resources and jobs and different things that where when you're talking about changing a community, we're talking about giving that mother hope, giving that father hope, giving that mother and father resources so they can bring about a change in their life and so they don't have to resort to the things that others had to resort to. Because when I was coming up, like the easy way for me to make some money was sell drugs. I'm just being honest because it wasn't no resources, there wasn't people here showing me and telling me how to be a constructor, how to do electrician, how to be a plumber. We're talking about skill training, and we're talking about reducing crime with the kids. You want to suspend them from school, send them to a VOTEC school. Don't suspend them and send them to the streets. Send them to a VOTEC school so they can learn, so they can pick up a trade or something. When we're talking about reducing crime, giving resources to the people that's here to do what needs to be done, not when it get to the point where Orange County and the city of Apopka is on the hot seat to do some things because things are not being done and haven't been done. It's a neglect of the community. The community has been neglected for, I'm 41 years old. So my community has been neglected all of my life. South Apopka has been neglected and haven't had the resources it needs from the government official or the leaders doing what's needed to be done. And we're talking about reducing crime, but we got to also talk about what is it going to take. And when you say what is it going to take, it's going to take people to believe in other people that's not doing it, not just to look good and things like that. And actually, like, how can I say it without, I'm trying to figure out the words to say without offending anyone. But at the same time, invest in the organization that's currently doing and reducing the crime and giving the kids hope, giving the kids somewhere to go, because you have kids don't have nowhere to go. They don't have nowhere to go to do their homework. They don't have nothing to do once they leave school. So when you know how idle mind goes, it's like you're going to think or you're going to find something to do, or you're going to listen to the person that's doing wrong. So it's giving more resources to the people and doing what it takes.
Thank you. Thank you. You spoke with a quiet frustration, very under control, and you're saying there need to be more resources, more resources. We hear you. We hear you. Your turn, sir.
Thank you for having me, sir. My name's Ruben Saldana. Most people know me as Coach Ruben. I reside in the Oak Ridge OBT area, 32839, one of the 3 red zones. Everybody always mentions Pine Hills. Pine Hills is, Paramore is on the map, and Oak Ridge and OBT, so it's not always Pine Hills. It's between those 3 from what I know the past 5 years. Anyhow, I work in all 3 of the red zones as the consultant for the mayor's task force, for the credible messengers. I subscribe to the ideology that those closest to the problem are closest to the solution. And I even know that we can't do it alone. Before I became close to the problem, I was an extreme victim of the problem, of everything we see up there and everything the task force talks about. And this is pre-puberty. Even before hitting puberty, I became the problem. I became a gangbanger, which eventually led me to doing almost 20 years in prison, starting at the age of 16. I'm almost 50 years old right now. So I say this not to hit on my chest. I didn't come up here to talk bad about law enforcement. I probably won't even mention y'all from here on out. I say this so when I speak to the community, who I really don't see here, except for the brother that spoke and probably a couple of others, and they're not really here. Maybe because Apopka's a little too far for this, right? It took me a little extra time to get out here myself. But us in the community, closest to the solution, we have to start taking accountability. Yes, we understand there's systematic racism. Yes, we understand law enforcement, government, and everybody else could do a lot more, but then we could do a little more and make a bigger impact than all of them put together. We know, I live in the red zone. I work in Pine Hills and Paramore 7 days a week. We know who's doing what. We who live there know. So let's stop trying to make them our heroes and let's come back to being a community again. It doesn't take much. You know who it is. Sometimes they're in our household or visiting. You know who's strapped. You know who's throwing them gang signs? You know who's serving from the crib down the corner? I'm not even suggesting we call law enforcement on them. I'm suggesting that we talk to them with love and let them know that we love them. We always come here and cry to them about everything. We got the answer. We are the answer. And I believe that the answer is love. We have to love on these people. I'm with these kids 24/7 almost. Matter of fact, I'm just going to mention this as a fact, and to go back with the brother saying from Apopka, because that reminds me of Oak Ridge and OBT. What a lot of people don't know, for being number one in poverty as a whole, number 2 in crime overall, depending on how these red zones are falling out, number 1 for Latina pregnancies, we don't have a single community center in our area, not one. Everybody wonders why the Ave, Americana Boulevard and Texas Ave is so bad. Where do they go? There's not one community center on Oak Ridge Road, starting from International Drive to Orange Ave, starting from OBT Holden Heights Community Center to Kissimmee. We can't walk to any of that, not to include how dangerous it is to walk through any of that. So you know what I did? I opened up my house 9 years ago. I didn't have to move into that hood. And my house is the community center. I say this to say not for everybody to open up your house, but we are the solution. I'm speaking to the community. I'm speaking to those of us come up here and whine all the time, because I was one of them. So for the community, just to let y'all know, and this is to law enforcement and to the government, as the consultant for Orange County, I am here to serve you. Call me out on it. I brought 2 of my kids, one from the Youth Advisory Board, raise your hand, from the Credible Messengers. We have flyers. Go get one of our flyers. Call me out on it. Hey, coach, I went and got your flyer. Reach out. He ain't come do nothing. Call me out. They said we're being filmed, right? That guy, call me out on it. I asked for your help. I asked you to come help us, and he ain't come. I promise you we'll be there by next week. And matter of fact, I'm inviting all of y'all. Saturday, we have, we're doing a Gloves Up, Guns Down Youth Crime Prevention Panel downtown Orlando. We're going to have Muhammad Ali's only biological son there. We're going to have Hector Camacho Jr., Macho Camacho Jr., one of the Puerto Rican hero boxers. We're going to have Rene Level Martinez, one of the most notorious. He was my gang rival in the 80s in Miami. Number 1, now he baptizes people from hood to hood. One of the most famous fighters with Kimbo Slice, went undefeated in the backyard. He'll be there Saturday. We're going to have Charles Felony Bennett, formerly known as Crazy Horse. All these celebrities are coming here to support us. So y'all come, bring the kids, stop looking for the excuses, bring them. Let them try to chump one of them. It's not just about the fight, they understand what we're going through. I'm gonna end it with that, and I thank y'all for giving me this opportunity to talk.
We thank you.
My name is Kenneth Mr. Gladiator Johnson. I'm the chaplain, president, and CEO of Gladiator Outreach Foundation. I'm from the Park area, Binion Road, and I'm fairly new to the city, but I ain't new to the crimes. Where I come from, I had to survive what I see that this generation of kids going through. And I have lost brothers and family members through gun violence. So I don't want nobody to have to come look for me. I came to find y'all. And I'm here to serve, and I'm here to protect, and I'm starting with the youth, but I accept the challenge for the battlefield, dealing with the drugs and the shooting and the violence, because I understand, and I'm not going with weapons, but I'm going with love. And I understand the nature of what's going on. For me, I got 30 years of dealing with at-risk youth and teens and violence. So that's just something that's my mission in the battlefield. I don't like to be inside of 4 walls, but I can assure you, Orange County, and y'all respect the places, help is here, and I'm gonna make sure losing and failure is not an option. I stand in the name of Jesus, and I can assure you that we're gonna get this thing under control for you. I'm building a team to make it happen, and y'all just hold me on that, and I'm gonna come be sitting with you guys and inspect the places, especially law firms, sit down and tell you what I need from you guys, everybody else, and then we'll make it happen. So just know I'm here to be a part of it. I'm a team player, so whatever y'all need, I'm here to help you make it right. God bless you.
Thank you so much. Those who have come to the microphone so far aren't just giving us problems, but they've made pledges and commitments to be part of the answer. And that's good news for our community. Is there anybody else who would like to come to the microphone at this time and express yourself? Our issue tonight, of course, is is violent crime and specifically gun crimes. How we can address it. Your comments are invited. If there are others, get ready.
Hi, my name is Tequila Hughley Davis. I'm a bus driver. I've been a bus driver for 25 years. I live in South Apopka. I'm at the park on a daily basis. That's where I work out. I, see kids and interact with kids and stuff. But the gun violence is out of control. I live here in Apopka. I can't afford to go move nowhere else. I want to be comfortable in my community because I can't afford to go live nowhere else. And the gun violence is out of control. It got to be stopped. Like the guy in the back said, they know who's doing it. They know who's doing all the shooting and stuff. Get them. What they waiting on? Stop getting them a slap on the wrist. Get them, because we want to live in a nice community. We hardworking citizens. We doing everything right. We don't want to be terrified to live in our community. We shouldn't have to. We taxpayers. We need them to take control and stop this gun violence that's going on.
Hi, my name's Tamelia Fair, also a member of the South Apopka community. And just to piggyback on what she said, the gun violence, it just seems to a point where law enforcement kind of puts it on the community for us to, speak and say who the culprits are. We know the culprits. Law enforcement knows the culprits also. But a lot of times people don't speak up, and it seems that so many of us have become kind of hostages in our own community for this reason. I think, one of the reasons it always makes me cringe, and we all know that the affidavits are public record. Recently there was an affidavit came out about a murder or whatever, but it just seems when we list witnesses' first, last name in these affidavits, it just seems to me that why would I as a citizen want to put myself in that situation to become maybe the possible next victim? I just feel like, yeah, you may need it for court, but for public record's sake, maybe that can be, a sacred part. Maybe that could be eliminated. Everyone's looking at that. So as a community, yeah, we may want to say something, but even it starts young. And even, we saw an event happen at one of the local high school, Jones or whatever, and, I was saying something, my son's like, no, Mom, no, don't say anything, don't get involved in that. Your name will be in that. And so we just have to change that narrative early, and I think that could be one of the suggestions that we could implement to kind of take steps forward towards that. Thank you.
I will address your victim and what's inside these reports. That's a legislative issue. Florida has a very liberal public records law that we can't violate, and we can only eliminate certain things. Obviously, the victim's name can be redacted from these reports, but if you want to change that, you're going to have to reach out to your legislatures and ask them to make the public records a little bit stricter when it comes to victims and witnesses of violent crime and stuff like that. It's not something that law enforcement can address because we're bound by what Florida statutes say as far as redaction in these reports.
Good evening, panelists and other parties who are present. My name is Francina Boykin. I'm a native of Apopka, born here 72 years ago. I grew up in a very wholesome community. I grew up in Apopka during the time where everybody was responsible for one another. Through the years, that have all changed. I'm awakened out of my sleep some mornings, some nights. I hear the rapid gunfire, and I just say a prayer, Lord, whoever it is, let them be okay. When I leave out of my neighborhood in the morning, I pass by houses that are riddled with bullets, and it's beginning, it's so frequent. There are numerous houses in my community with bullet holes. that's not the Apopka I'm accustomed to. I've lost 2 relatives. My dear sister, on the 25th of this month, would be 19 years ago, to gun violence. Her daughter, in 2017, to gun violence. So I've been impacted both ways. I mean, immediate family. When I see children in my neighborhood, if I'm out after 10, young kids, 10, 11, in the streets late at night, no parental accountability. In school, and I've been to so many task force through the years since I returned to Apopka in the mid-'80s, when the crack cocaine came on the scene. Now it's meth and fentanyl. So many deaths attributed and accounted to illegal drugs. I look at the number of alternative school programs we have in Orange County. When you have elementary school students in an alternative program because they have disciplinary or behavior problems in school, that's a problem. Most students are given, when they start out, the identifiers in the school is the IEP, if anybody know what the IEP is. That IEP is an identifier that this child is beginning to exhibit some type of bad behavior. And where you have the problem with this is that parental accountability. All you need is that IEP for a parent to get what is now called the new welfare. That's the SSI payments. One household, and this is to me just absurd, 5 children in a household on SSI. They're not even 15 years old yet. Do those parents, many of them, do they follow through on, with the IEP, it gives you a outline of what you need to do, to make sure your child is in the right programs, getting the counseling through schools, or following up with therapists. These children are the ones who are falling through the cracks. They're the ones, when they turn 16 years old, they're not going back to school. They're the ones who wander my neighborhood late at night or whenever, breaking in homes, because there is no curfew, there is no accountability. I look at the task force and the many meetings that I have. Every time there are multiple killings in my neighborhood, then we form a task force. What are we going to do? Boots on the ground. The boots on the ground activity is something that I do frequently. I heard the other people who get up and speak saying that they're out here for the young people. Anymore, with me being out late, if I see a group of kids or however, if I can reach out to them, I'm more a one-on-one person when it comes to that. But if you're looking to, money is not going to fix the problem. $1 million can't even, $1 million won't even treat one drug addict if they were treated properly. If we want to get to the root of it. I look at hospital bills all the time, and if you go to the hospital and spend a few days, that's $500,000. So if you engage in some type of program that is ongoing, then, it gets expensive. So, to say I don't have the answers, and I don't think any of us do, that's why we're here. When I was growing up, we only had one juvenile delinquent that I can remember in my neighborhood. And they tell me he ended up burning a 4-room school down one time, years ago. But I just say this, boots on the ground, I'll volunteer wherever I can to help out. But, thank you all for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Good afternoon, panels, all of you, the officers, Mayor. Thanks for stopping in as well. Let me get started because when we look at, and I'm talking to the way that we are actually having these task force to where you're doing east side and the west side, that really won't work because you got people having to travel too far. And so how are the news getting out to the people in these communities? Based on the east side, or this is the west side, it should be packed if the people knew or about it. I personally believe that we need to target the areas that are actually being riddled with the violence. I know that a couple of years ago, $20 million was advocated to high-risk neighborhoods based on zip codes. Those dollars are not going into the right places or the right hands. One of the things that I know that could work in the Apopka area, we did it before, I heard the young man as he was talking, the people who are closest to the problem can work with the problem much better than people who are not close to the problem. Such things as midnight basketball, opening up facilities. For instance, we can't even use Wheatley, and Wheatley has a gym right in the heart of South Apopka. Most times there's a program, they want to go to Wekiva. We got to go to Wekiva to do it. Or we got to go to Apopka High School. You're trying to get people to come out of their own neighborhood to go to a program, but you won't come to the neighborhood that really needs it to do the programs. And then the dollars that are being spent, if you're already behind, and then you come and spend, $1 million, but you move that $1 million next year, you really haven't did anything for that community. It has to be ongoing. It can't just be a bandage approach. Then we're talking about legislation. We're talking about gun violence. Now politics is going to enter into this. Our governor just signed a bill where you don't even need a permit to a concealed weapon. How are we addressing the gun issue? The first thing we start talking about is the Second Amendment. Anybody trying to take your guns, but at the same time, you are opening the floodgates to have even more guns. And we're talking about gun violence. So I would hope to believe that everyone up here is against having this new bill that has just been passed that you don't need a permit. I hope you would be. The other thing is that when we look at alternative education, there is no money or not enough money going into alternative education. I know there's one that is being held here by Ms. Brown. She has one teacher and a sub. But we got all of these students of color. If we go to our schools, 80% of the people who have been suspended, who are going to in-school suspension, or students of color. In-school suspension is not a program that they get their lesson. It's kind of like just go and sit over there in the corner. So we need more dollars going into programs like alternative education, things that we know, because if you're not getting dollars to places where it is needed, and we're just spending money but not spending it where it needs to be, I think that's a travesty to our young people. I serve on quite a few boards. I pastor church, and I know a lot of times we overlook the faith base. I'm thankful that we're having this meeting here, but if you want to touch the people who really needs to have this meeting, it needs to be at South Apopka. It needs to be in South Apopka. We're saying that this is a community meeting, but I don't see folk from South Apopka up here. I see Sabrina, she's from South Apopka. I didn't hear anything from Sabrina. as to this meeting was going to be held here. So how is the information getting out? I don't want to bore you, but I do think that we already know the zip codes that are in trouble. And so we need to spend dollars in those zip codes that are in trouble. And then we need to target certain types of things that would help our community. I know for a fact, I work with the South Apopka Project as an initiative, and we cut crime in the South Apopka community by having things at the Bridges Center on a consistent basis. Now we can't even get people to work. We can't even open up a Boys and Girls Club and all of the other things. We got programs that I know New Journey. We got all kind of programs that needs to have dollars. Those dollars are going in the wrong places. So let's spend money on programs in our community that we know work. And let's stop playing games, because that's what we're doing. We're playing games, and time is out for that. I had a son that was murdered. So I know how I feel when you're talking about guns violence. Thanks by the grace of God that the perpetrator is in jail. But I'm serious. This is an issue that we can no longer just put a few dollars on the table and then we take the dollars out of the community. The community still needs those dollars. Bridges Center should be wide open. Wheatley should be doing midnight basketball and other programs. That gym is just sitting in our neighborhood, and I did go to Wheatley. It's sitting in our neighborhood dormant, and we need to use it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Listen, I just want to remind everybody as you come to the microphone, we're being liberal with the time allotment. We're not cutting people off, and we appreciate the nature of the comments that are being made tonight. But do me a favor and just shoot for that 3-minute target. Shoot for that target and see how close you can get. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I'm Daniel Smith. Thank you, Pastor. You're my pastor, so I'll note your statement. I live in Apopka. I just have a couple of concerns and questions as well. I do a program called Community Matters, so the community does matter. And I don't know if anyone knows, like my brother who was just up here, he mentioned about the open carry law. Does anyone know when that's going to be passed? It's passed, or when it's going to be active?
It's usually July 1st. And it's not, open carry was not passed. Concealed carry was passed.
Concealed carry?
Yeah, open carry was not passed.
Okay, so can you explain concealed?
It means that somebody can carry a firearm concealed without a permit now. Whereas in the past, you had to have a permit and training to be able to carry a concealed firearm.
Okay, you have to be trained, you said?
Under the new legislation, no. Under the old legislation, you did have to be trained.
Okay, the new one, you don't have to be trained.
Because you had to have a concealed firearms permit. Under the new one, anybody can carry a firearm concealed, but they cannot carry it openly.
Oh, okay. Reason why I'm just kind of highlighting that, because I see, I've been involved with a lot of the community projects. You guys are great law enforcement. They're in the community. They have satellite stations in the community, and you guys are doing a great job as best you can. I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan. My uncle, he was a Detroit police officer. So I do have a passion and concern and love for law enforcement. So it seems like some of the laws that affect the society as a whole that are passed is kind of counterintuitive to what you all are striving to fight against. The open carry, I'm concerned with the violence that we have. I'm just concerned with law enforcement, and you know, I like Westerns. It just seems like we're kind of coming into a stage of the Wild Wild West. So I'm just wondering, are you all concerned as well with this law that's just passed in the violence? So I want to hear some of your thoughts on that. Okay.
So I can say we're absolutely very concerned with how this will play out because it does limit some of our law enforcement actions that we are able to take in regards to the Second Amendment and people carrying firearms. So it does cause a huge issue. And Sheriff Mina has been very outspoken in this effort. I know he's worked with several local community groups and has even gone on national television to be outspoken in this effort. That as of now, that most of the other sheriff's offices in different areas of Florida do not necessarily support that same viewpoint. But here locally, we absolutely do not agree with the upcoming legislation, and it will make our job a lot harder.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? And by the way, we want to just let you know our mayor, the Honorable Jerry Demings, is here. He's listening very carefully, and we're thankful that we have a mayor who cares and comes close to the people. Good to see you here, Chief. Yes, sir.
Yep, I'm actually coming up here, Miles Moraine. I'm actually part of the task force, and I'm coming as a community member also, hearing the other community members and knowing how things work kind of on the inside and outside. You know, I kind of understand the frustrations that I hear. I think a lot of times, you know, the task force is made in reaction, but this stuff is ongoing all the time. One thing that I would love to see for the community to do that is kind of the stuff that kind of falls short, and people might have heard Coach Rubin and other people speak, but there's so many people on the ground that we all know of, and they're not getting the resources that they need to do this work. We know that traditionally we have the centers that are in each community. We have the other places that might be like the Boys and Girls Clubs and other places like that. But the people who are on the ground are kind of missing the chance to come up here and get a chance to show what they could do. And I feel like what we can do as a community is we need to actually start spreading this word. People who are leaving this meeting right now, spreading this word, because right now you could have had the most perfect idea and the most perfect program, but unfortunately we wouldn't be able to get you funded for another year or so because deadlines and other things that happen with the county. So the problem is that we need people from the community to keep spreading this word and working with the people who are trying to get this work done. I know a couple people myself who I want to bring into the fold that are on the ground closest to the problems. In the past couple of weeks, we've been out to a couple locations, and we like to do the stuff with people who are on the ground and the victims of crime. We try to bridge the gap with the victims of crime and the services. The problem is that I'm seeing is that we need something from the county that could actually do an extra umbrella for people, because we got people who are trying to get services but don't qualify sometimes because their family member might have been convicted of a crime, or they may have been suspected of a crime when they pass away. We have other people who are trying to relocate who can't relocate because the state might not cover that, and they might have been right next door to where a crime happens. Like the lady who said earlier, you're a tax-paying citizen and you might feel like your community is not getting the attention you want after a crime happens, but sometimes it's not just because people don't care, it's because there's no resources out for it. So unless we speak up and unless we come to these meetings and put it in front of these faces, it's never going to be changed. And at the end of the day, I feel like what everybody said is so true. It's on the community also, and it's also on us as the community to ask these hard questions. Right now, there's funding that goes out for these type of things that half the people in here probably don't even know about. So what I urge is that we don't only wait for these meetings to come. You can call any of your local commissioners. You can call any office. You don't have to wait for the mayor to come out in person to try to reach out to his office. Everybody who's up here, who's part of the government, you can reach out to them. By law, they have to contact you back and talk to you. So I just want to urge people to not just, we're reactive with the task force, but as the community, we need to be proactive also. We don't also have to wait for these meetings to start saying this is a problem. Like they said earlier, we know who's doing this stuff. We know where the problems are at. If you have an idea, please share it. Don't just wait for today. You might not have the words today. Write it in the email. But this is an ongoing effort. I came up here to speak to tell people that we know we hear the problems, but don't think that it's falling on deaf ears. There are people who are just like you who are fighting every day for the stuff to change, but it's not going to happen with just one or two voices. It's only going to happen when everybody speaks up, everybody doesn't go back home until they get what they want, and we can't just be reacting when it's 4 or 5 murders in 1 week. We need to react every day, and I just wanted to make sure that we come together and we don't wait just for the task force. So when you leave here, you got a chance, reach out to your local commissioner, reach out to your local offices, tell them what you want to see done, and make sure you follow up on it, and we have to be the change also.
Thank you. I see someone else coming to the mic. Are there others who want to speak after her? Let me see your hands. Let's get an order. If you two could be next, and then right over here, we'd appreciate it. We'd appreciate it. We do have some comments that have come in on Facebook, and let me read those right before you start. Angela Grantley said, I would like to know what's being done about the crime in Pine Hills. That's been an ongoing subject tonight. Francesca said, has a resource idea here. She said, I coach a robotics team in Apopka for 4th to 8th grade. I'm happy to mentor coaches if you would like to start a team. I'm a volunteer and don't get any incentive for starting teams. And then Marielle Milano said, what does the panel suggest that parents can do to prevent this problem? What does the panel suggest that schools do? We appreciate these comments and questions, and perhaps these things can be addressed a bit later. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, good evening. My name is Andrea Lari. I am actually a resident of South Apopka. My home literally is in part of Orange County, and then my neighbor's part of the city of Apopka, so I'm kind of in that divided area there. But I've lived in South Apopka for the last 29 years. I've raised my 2 children, and then I also have my grandchildren now. I'm very familiar with what everyone has said so far related to as far as the crime. I have patched up, bullet holes in my home, have witnessed certain things that have taken place, but I can definitely say that those that have come up, I know them personally. They have been passionate about the changes that they want to see in South Apopka and then in our community in Orange County as a whole. I know not only that I live in South Apopka, but being with me also having some experience with Orange County, being an employee, it also helps me to understand where some of the funding comes about, some of the processes that we have to go through. And I think one of the things, being a part of some of the different meetings that have taken place within our community that may not have included the members of the task force, is people understanding exactly where the funding is actually taking place. We know the money has been allocated, but for the citizens in the community to know how much have our district actually been allocated for our programs, how many people from our community that are actually receiving these programs, the funding, how can they go about that? I know our CCC, I always mess up the name, but I got you. They have definitely been very helpful for those that do reach out and want to know that information. But I think when it being even more transparent for people to know that, yes, this is where the funding is, this how much has been allocated to South Apopka or to District 2, 6, 7, whatever it may be, so that people can understand what they need to do to go about that. When I do get an opportunity, I try to educate individuals as much as I can as far as the process that has to take place. And I know the gentleman talked about, yes, we are kind of like behind the 8 ball because we know certain things have to go before the board. Money has already have to be allocated based upon those that have received, that have submitted the paperwork in order for them to receive the funding. I think one of the things that we can do is at least start out where we're having a list of those different organizations within our community that are boots on the ground, where that information is provided to the task force. And then those individuals can actually get a chance to reach out and directly work with Ms. Chestnut Group and know what they need to do. I know we may be a year behind when it comes to the next round of funding, but we know that our mayor and our commissioners are passionate about what we want to make the change because we keep having a task force. But we want to begin to see where those changes are happening. When we know, okay, if funding has been allocated to this particular program, we know that there are certain performance measures they have to present. Yes, so many people that are attending, but are we making sure that the people that are making the major impact are getting these opportunities? Do we have to make some tweaking to some of the requirements for someone to get the funding? There are a lot of different, I give example, New Hope Church, they do tutoring at their church. I had mentioned to them before about, even though I think their church is actually part of City of Apopka, but they do awesome tutoring for our community in South Apopka. And I reached out to them and said, this may be an opportunity for you to receive funding from this because you're impacting the children in our community. So some of those things that may have to take place, I don't know if they have to be directly related to in Orange County, or if it is a program, depending on where they're allocated, but just being a little more flexible on how people can actually go about receiving those funds and making a difference. Because I know there are several organizations within our community that are doing it by getting fundraisers, people donating equipment, people volunteering their time, and that are actually making an impact in the community. So I just definitely think coming about getting a list of those that are currently doing programs and then providing them the support they need in order to receive that funding. Because when you look at what's taking place in South Apopka and then you look what's taking place in other areas, you're like, well, why are we dragging behind? What is happening in our district that nothing is moving fast enough, but other areas are showing the improvement? And so those are just some things I think that we need to take into consideration. Yes. Oh, and then also, definitely, midnight basketball, having access to the Wheatley Elementary School. I'm part of the Wheatley PTA, and I know we have tried, even on with the PTA, to try to have certain events after hours, and I know it's a whole new process. You got to go through now the whole process to reserve it. But John Bridges, I know since COVID, it's been a lot harder to get access to the center. But I remember when my children were growing up, we had midnight basketball. It was awesome. We had the sheriff departments that was there, and they was actually volunteering their time. And I know that's a cost now. We have to pay $40 an hour, and we have to have at least 2 there, and plus you have to pay them, 2 or 3 hours for them to even come. And most time we're not gonna have basketball for 3-4 hours. You're looking at 2 hours max. So that also affects us not being able to do those things. And then plus John Bridges now have to have the staff work that night to have the center open for those things. So there's some things we need to just take in consideration that we may have to make some modifications to make the impact in our community. But we definitely have people that are willing to volunteer their time and effort to make that happen. And I'm one of those, so.
Thank you so much. And so that everybody is very clear, all of the suggestions and questions are being recorded on tonight so that they will be considered and acted on. These are all comments that are going to be factors in the ultimate equation and the answers that we come up with. And together, I think we can really make a difference. But know that you're not just talking and not being heard. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I am Jill Haru. I am from Conway area, 32812 zip code. I can't say that we have a whole lot of problem with crime. However, I am very concerned because we, as a member of Moms Demand Action, I believe we have a member who has a seat at the table. I am thrilled to hear all the solutions that people are offering and the hope that they are trying to bring to this community. I'm actually going to just do a little advertising for Moms Demand Action because we partner with people, organizations all over the community. We do cleanup in Pine Hills. We do legislative lobbying. We were there, a lot of us were there at the last Senate committee meeting and watched legislation get steamrolled over the people who said no, and people, so we do the legislative lobbying. We help people get activated in order to realize that we have to let our legislators know what we think, and we need to let them know, just as you're here speaking your mind about what you are doing, or what's important to them, then we also need to say the same thing to them. But anybody who is here or anybody who hears this out in the audience, Moms Demand partners with your organizations as well. We're partnering in Pine Hills with an organization to do cleanup in the near future. I think it might be the 29th. We've actually partnered with the family whose daughter, Tiana Major's family, we met them at Maxwell Frost revealing of his gun Office of Gun Prevention that he is going to put in as a bill, and they've developed a foundation, the Yaya Foundation, and we fed the homeless with them, not because we were organizing it, that was totally their organizing, but we were there in support. And to have a homeless person say yay, gave me basically a thumbs up for the Moms Demand Action shirt. We are a powerful group in the country, and so join us with our voice or help us join your voices, because we're there.
Forgive the hat, I wear it to prevent glare. My name's Paul Heroux, that was my wife Jill just now. I am a member of Moms Demand Action also, and the only reason I bring it up is the main thing that I want to say is thank you for making people come out and share as a community with each other. Because this is the one thing that I would mention. What is glaringly obvious, and I'm talking more to the people on YouTube than I am to all of you, what is glaring obvious to me in this room is the absence of people who look like me. And I know some live in Apopka, so why they're not here is beyond me, and yet it isn't. Complacency and very carefully fed fear have kept people from communicating with each other and causing the changes we need to cause. That's why I wear this shirt. People say, you're a man and you're with moms? Yeah, and I stand behind my wife and I say, what she said. Because when the women are leading, you get out of the way. Meanwhile, with regard to this, people who look like me who are listening to this, it's interesting. I was helping with a rights restoration situation back in 2012, and I happened to mention to the woman that I was a felon, and she said, you're a felon? And I said, yes, but since I had the humps surgically removed and the extra eye put in and stopped eating my neighbor's pets, nobody seems to notice anymore. The point is, we don't know who we are unless we share with each other. And we're afraid to do that. And so to the extent that I can stand up and say who I am and get people to come together, people who are so safe in their neighborhoods, who are so safe with their gate, you know what a crook calls a gated community? A box lunch. It has a handle. The point is, we either work all of us together to make our community safe, or all of our communities become less safe. And millions of dollars and millions of managers are going over trying to tell us that we can't work together. It's time to realize the irony of that. We can and we should. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name's Danny, and I'm from the wonderful community of Lockhart. 3 words: parenting, community, and broken window. Okay? Parenting. We need to, at some point in society, people stop parenting their children. I mean, if you're an adult in a household and your 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old child or resident of that household has a gun, and you don't take it away or don't even know about it, you are a serious part of the problem. Okay? We need to go ahead and get our communities back to parenting. I don't care if it's part of a proactive thing. Prime example, one of the middle schools. I've been president of school advisory committees for, 18 years. Okay? We had a thing to go ahead and did a boot camp. Okay? Free lunch, free childcare, had a raffle for a TV. Out of 600 students in that school, less than 7 parents showed up. That's how concerned they were with their children. Okay, that's their education. That's who they hang out with. I mean, even at the high school level. I've been very active in high school. I average about 250 hours of community service half the time you wouldn't see parents show up. When I'm sitting there and I'm helping out a child in an event, and I know my son, I know his friends, I know who he's hanging with, and you see a child that looks up at me, a high school student, and kind of has that look in their eye, say, wow, I wish my dad was there or my mom was there. That's a big issue, okay? Community, okay? It's time. We've got to start taking our communities back. I don't care if it's a parade, a march down the street. We need to let the criminal element know that we've had enough, okay? That we want to take our communities back. How are we going to do it? If we show up in force as a community saying, enough, I don't care. You know, you're going to come after me? Well, you know, I know 3 or 4 of our other neighbors. You know, we started an organization called RA Neighbor for Riverside Acres Park over in Lockhart. And because you are a neighbor, at some point in society, people started being neighborly to each other. They stopped helping each other out, okay? Most of us are adults here. Remember back in the day, if you got in trouble and your parents found out about it, you got a whooping or whatever. You got punishment, grounded, whatever the case may be. If the neighbor told your parents about it, it was 3 times worse, right? Am I right? Okay, so we've got to start doing things like that. The broken window system. Lockhart has been proven, I think Captain Strange, you would agree with this, Lockhart's crime has decreased ever since we started doing our cleanups and started making a difference in the community, okay? The criminal element, when they see 40, 50, 60, 70 residents of the area together to clean it up, they take notice. They say, wow, they've got their acts together. Patricia, I've done one with you over in Pine Hills. I think Mayor Demings, I think you were there for one of the ones that we did. South Apopka, okay? I know there's people here from South Apopka. Captain Strange, you've got one coming up on the West Orange Trail in South Apopka on the 29th, okay? So at that point, when your community gets there, it fixes a broken window, okay? You can plant flowers. I mean, in Lockhart, through the volunteerism and through the community, 4 weeks ago, we had News 13 come out and interviewed us, or a couple select people, about what a difference it's been making. And this is just all volunteerism. It doesn't cost anybody a dime, except for those that want to make a difference in their community, okay? A week after that, we had an Easter egg hunt at Riverside Acres Park, okay? We had over 850 people there, 500 and some children, and it was like 214 or 250, whatever, adults there for it. And you know what that cost us? I think I had $20 into it. Well, actually, no, now 40, because I still have 4,000 eggs that I have to store somehow. But it makes a difference to the community. The kids enjoy it, and it shows them that the community is together. And the criminal element sees that number of people together for that event. They don't want to mess with that. So, thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you so much. Yes, ma'am. Are there any others who want to speak? Just want to kind of know where we are. All right, very much, I think, or very, very good. I think you're the one who's going to be concluding our community comments, and then we'll have an opportunity for those who are up front to make comments if you like, and of course we want to hear from our illustrious mayor.
All right, thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Hello. My name is Leslie Odom. I'm with Full Circle Florida. Our mission is to break the cycle of intergenerational adverse childhood experiences through education, advocacy, and training. It is our fundamental belief that when we support parents, we protect all children. We are in the community. We have applied for funding. We are very visible. And I would like to mention that in our community, my community, the Black community, mental health is not talked about a lot. But from what I understand is that and the gentleman said it before, that if the problem is in the community, the solution should also be in the community. I'm in the community. I have a background in mental health. we at Full Circle have backgrounds in mental health, and we're also here with lived experiences. I've heard education, I've heard parenting, I've heard a lot of important buzzwords. Mental health intersects with gun violence. Mental health intersects with every area of life. And if we can provide that education and support to parents, because parents are out here parenting traumatized. Trauma begets trauma. It starts in the home. We are also pledging to support and collaborate with initiatives in the community. I was going to mention a little bit earlier that 70% of success in mental health counseling is the relationship with the therapist. And the way in which we build relationship is sometimes we connect with people who look like us. And so if you were to go and receive counseling, you would probably connect with someone that you feel would understand you and understand what you're going through. And so if I don't say anything else tonight, I want you all to know that mental health is important. And I did receive, the mayor had something to come out, and it noted that the wait time in Orange County to receive mental health counseling is about 4 weeks. I'm here to let you know that that has extended, especially if you're looking for a therapist of color. Thank you.
We want to thank everyone who's made comments tonight. The quality of the comments has been outstanding, absolutely outstanding. And all of the comments that have been made are going to be collected and considered by those who are in government. The Orange County staff is going to consider them, as well as the task force. And the recommendations that will be made will certainly include the suggestions that have been forwarded tonight. And it's an ongoing process, as you know. I'm going to ask you to please keep your ear tuned to when the next community meeting will be. Spread the word. The more people who have an opportunity to listen and speak, the better the solutions will be. And the more foot soldiers there will be on the ground and in the trenches making a real difference. There are those who are here sitting up front now. Are there any comments you'd like to make before we ask our mayor to come and address us? We'll start at the end and go right on down for those who would like to comment.
Good evening. I'm Pastor Sabrina. I have heard some good things tonight. And I want to say, you know, I just didn't get here overnight. I've been on both sides. So I understand what some of you are talking about the streets, because I've been there. And I've been to jail. I've been on drugs. I done some of, you name it, I've been there. And I've had people to tell me that I wasn't going to be anything. But I made them out of a liar. Because God say I can be who I want to be. And I heard my name called tonight. I'm Pastor Sabrina now. But I wasn't always a pastor. And I know how it is on the streets. What I does, I go to the streets. I'm just not a pastor inside the four walls. I go out in the trenches. And the community kids, I love them. When I came up, I had a person spoke over my life, said, you weren't going to be nothing but a drug addict, a drug dealer. I said, not so. So I say that to say this. People speak on people's lives, you know, not knowing who they can be. And I've been in South Apopka back in the 70s. I moved from Plymouth here in Apopka back in the 70s. I made up in my mind that I was going to finish school. When I was told I wasn't going to graduate, I made him out a lie. And I went on, became an educator. I went to Orange County Jail about 9 times. And I said, you know what? I told the judge, I said, you know what? You won't see me over here no more. He said, I hope I don't. And I made up in my mind, see, it's a mind thing. You got to have a well made up mind to be something in life. And I know what some of these guys, these gangbangers and on the streets is going through, and they can allow me to talk to them. Some of them I taught in school, and they respect me. I can go in places some people won't even go. I can go, and I talk to them. I pray for them. I pray with them. And some of these same people, I heard my name called tonight, but a lot of people used to look down upon me when God saw something different in me. And I was asked to be on this community, and I was glad to say yes, because I love helping. How can you tell somebody something when you haven't experienced anything? So I let them know what I experienced, that they don't have to go where I have been. So the youth, we can try to save, and a lot of people in Apopka, I'm well known in Apopka, I'm well known in the Plymouth, Zellwood, you name it, I'm well known for the works I do to help our community kids. I do whatever I can do for our kids, because a lot of kids don't have. And I get funded by some of my Facebook friends, my sponsors. I have a lot of sponsors that sponsors when I put on something for our community kids. And I get emotional when I hear, because I'm out on the street. I got a bullhorn in my car. I keep it in my car. I go in the areas and I get my bullhorn and I pray. Whenever I see a group of people, I go and I pray, because I'm not afraid to go amongst them. I just don't talk. I have a word. I have a saying. You can make your mouth fry chicken, but actions speak louder than words. I get out there and I do what I say I'm going to do. For people get mad at me, but I don't care. I'm going to do what I do because I have a passion for the community. I have a passion for the kids, and I have a passion for the young men and women that's out on the street. And I do what my Bible say do. When you get strengthened, you go back and you strengthen your brother. And I don't mind doing it, because I do it from my heart, not from my mouth. So I thank everybody for hearing me. I think I heard everybody tonight, and it was wonderful. I have some of my classmates in here that know me. And I just thank you all for this night.
I'm Nancy Ash, and can you hear me? I got my start working in corrections. I was the first woman to work in an all-male prison in the state of Michigan. Also one of the first in the United States, so I go back that far. And one of the first things I learned when I worked in a prison was that if people just knew they had somebody who cared about them, and somebody pointed that out to me tonight, and it's true. A lot of the prisoners, the percentage of them that were abused was astronomical. And I've been to the boot camp that the sheriff used to operate, and that goes way back. And I've sat in cells and talked to prisoners. I've talked to people on the streets that have been gangbanging. I've talked to a lot of different people, and it's a recurring theme. One kid that was graduating from boot camp with the Orange County Sheriff's Office made the comment to me that he wished somebody cared about him. He said he had no one that would listen to him and no one that cared. So I think we can go a long way. I've heard the word love has been a recurring theme tonight, and I think that that's probably the answer. Anyway, thank you for having me.
I wanted to touch back on a few of the topics that I heard over the course of our conversations tonight. So in terms of Kicks for Guns, we held one from the Sheriff's Office about 2 weeks ago. And just for the community to be aware, tomorrow the Orlando Police Department is hosting one at Bruton Boulevard in the Smith Center. That's going to be going on tomorrow. So if you bring in a gun, you're able to get a $50 gift card to put towards a pair of shoes. And so that's something that OPD is working on. And based on the feedback, hopefully we can also do one here in Apopka in the coming months. We have several initiatives, and it seems a common theme that throughout our businesses that there's a lot of talking but not a lot of communicating, and the word isn't getting spread appropriately. So I would encourage you to get to know who your commissioners are, to use your social media, and not always follow just YouTube, but follow your commissioners, follow your local governments. There's a lot of information that gets put out through the Sheriff's Office, websites, social media. There's a lot of effort that goes into that messaging, so I would take that opportunity to follow it. There are opportunities for resources and funding, and I know within the Sheriff's Office that one of our key initiatives that we do every year is that when we take money from drug dealers through forfeitures, that Law Enforcement Trust Fund, a large portion of that money goes right back into our communities. So every year we do that, and that's something that we want these community members, these groups, like Clinton was bringing up, and what Pastor Bradford's brought up, and things that we've talked about through Ms. Patricia and some of our Apopka Safe Streets. Attend these local meetings. There's always a meeting to go to, and get the word out. You can use 311 to talk about code enforcement issues. It's going to get researched, it's going to get looked at, and it's going to take time. We are all understaffed like anybody else, and I know that all of us within the county are hiring, so the Sheriff's Office is always hiring, not just for law enforcement, but there's plenty of civilian positions out there. So if you're looking for a job opportunity, please check out with us, look at us, check it out at ocso.com. Let us know what your concerns are so that we can address those. And as far as crime in Pine Hills, it's an ongoing effort. I'm sad to hear that someone said that they have not seen law enforcement in Pine Hills, but that's something that we're going to continue to work on and be present on a regular basis. So we are trying to make a difference every day, and hopefully you'll start seeing something different here shortly.
The Apopka Police Department's hiring too, so don't forget that. Since many of y'all are closer to us than to the Orange County Sheriff's Office, we're right around the corner. There was a common theme by a couple of the speakers, Mr. Stanley, Pastor Bradford, and Ms. Boykin, and that is our youth in our schools and alternatives. The violence in our community carries over into our schools, and there are some of our children in our schools that need a more structured environment. They need a more one-on-one, a closer connection to somebody to help them through the difficult times that they may be experiencing. They may not be, Apopka High School has approximately 3,500 students. They might not be set for that environment. I think we need to do a better job as a community in the Orange County Public School Board of recognizing the children who are struggling in an unstructured environment and put them in a structured environment to try to make them successful, whether it be through getting their GED, getting their high school diploma, or, as Mr. Stanley said, getting some kind of alternative training where they're trained in a trade, because they just may not be that route. And I don't think we do a good enough job of, we remove these kids from our schools, but we put them in a school with other problem children, and we don't have the resources there to give them more of a one-on-one, one-on-two education or assist them with what they need, because some people just need a more structured environment than 3,500 kids. Fortunately, the majority of the kids that are in the high school can live in that environment and can be successful and can pass and get their high school diploma. But we need to recognize that some of them don't, and when they don't, they fall behind. They come out into our communities. As Mr. Stanley said, they turn to drugs and crime and gun violence. I think we just need to do a better job at looking at what alternatives we have for our kids, and the younger we can get to them and realize they aren't going to be able to fit in an unstructured environment, give them a structured environment, the more likely they are to be successful. So.
I just want to thank everyone for coming out and let you know that you have been heard. We've all been taking notes up here. on the information that you gave us, and it will be used by the task force.
Good evening, and thank you all for coming. Again, my name's Arnie Amoros, retired from the NYPD, and I'm the past president of the Fraternal Order of Police. One thing I didn't mention, our organization in Orange County, we're mentoring the children, the 6th and 7th graders right now, and that's going to be a positive. I would like to bring that to the state level and see if in our organization, most of us are retired. But I'm going to see if I can bring it to the state level so we can get more of these retired law enforcement officers in the schools and mentor these kids. That's very important. Looking at this, and I appreciate being on this task force, I looked at several different cities, the major ones, Washington, D.C., Chicago, and New York City, and what kind of gun programs they have in place. I came up with one, and it's the New York City Blueprint to End Gun Violence. Just a quick example. In 2021, they removed 6,000 guns off the streets in 1 year. They have different programs. I did submit it to the committee, and it's something that they're going to look at, but I believe that's a step in the right direction. All your statements were heavily impacted. I mean, I felt it, and I'm pretty sure the whole task force here felt it. But I applaud you all for coming, and I'm going to do my damn best to help out the task force here. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Anthony Watts. I'm one of the deputy chiefs with the Orange County Corrections Department. I am the staff liaison for the enforcement subcommittee. I just want to say thank you to everyone that came out tonight and for all of your words that you shared. Thank you for your civic engagement, helping us to find reasonable, common sense solutions to address gun violence and violent crime in Orange County. I wanted to take this opportunity to note that one of the recommendations that came out during the first Citizen Safety Task Force was the implementation of a community ambassador position. I want to take this opportunity to present to some and introduce to others Ms. Patricia Rumpf. Go ahead and stand up, Patricia, who's the community ambassador. Her role is to engage, inform, and to assist the community as we go through this process and implement some of the recommendations from the Citizen Safety Task Force. I also want to take this brief opportunity to ask for your assistance because we are going to have another community meeting on April the 26th from 6 o'clock to 7:30 at the Renaissance Senior Center in East Orange County. I would be remiss if I did not mention that because there are so many of you that traveled from different areas, not even living here in Apopka. So I ask that you please assist us in getting the word out and sharing that through your networks so that we can have a robust attendance at that event. So again, thank you for your presence here tonight and all of your input that you've provided. It's been phenomenal.
Very good. We've come to the end of our meeting, and before we disperse, we definitely want to hear from our illustrious mayor, the coolest mayor in the United States of America. So I present to you Mayor Jerry L. Demings, the one and only.
All right, good evening, everyone. Let me begin by just saying thank you to Dr. Doggett for opening up this wonderful facility to all of us this evening. We will be moving these meetings around our county so that we can hear from everyone. Let me also say thank you to all of the members of the task force who are volunteering their time to make certain that we get it right, that we hear from you. Thank you to all of you for being here tonight and giving us the input that we are looking for. What I want you to know is that we are very, very serious and committed to trying to reduce the prevalence of gun violence and violent crime in our community. This is my 42nd year of public service. The overwhelming majority of that time, I've been a law enforcement officer. And what I can tell you is that, and I said this when we started the task force meetings the first time, and I'm going to continue to say it this time. We cannot reduce gun violence in our community without the community. If you are looking for the government to solve this problem alone, that is not going to work. We cannot lose hope that we can reduce it. In fact, I'm here to tell you that even though sometimes it does not look like we have reduced violent crime, we have. But if you're one of those families, if you're one of those individuals who knows someone, who loves someone, who's been the victim of violent crime, that was one incident too many. Because we are living in the human experience, this is something that we will always have to dedicate ourselves to being on the battleground, to be involved in. We said to you the last time that we would listen. Part of the solution requires the allocation of your taxpayer dollars. We were committed, and Orange County has engaged some 97 different community-based organizations to be out in the vineyard, tolling, doing the hard work, the heavy lifting, working with our youth. That's significant. It's extraordinary. But by the same token, we have created an atmosphere where there are some others who are engaged in the fight who are not getting paid. We have integrated ourselves in the moral fabric of our community. And one of the reasons why I believe that it works is to have the faith-based community intertwined with all of us. When we do that, we are stronger as a community. To get us out of this conundrum, I remind you that we live in arguably the greatest nation in the world with its imperfections. But this nation was built on Christian principles, and we remain one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will not give up on America. I will not give up on this community. I will not give up on you. I will not give up on those who sometimes are incarcerated in our community. You have to believe that we can make a difference together. Bring somebody else into this fight. That's what we're trying to do. We're growing this machine. We're growing the number of soldiers, the foot soldiers in our community, one person at a time. I believe because you're here, you believe. There are some people who have written off their communities. They're so frustrated, they will not get involved. They won't come to these meetings. They feel like it's unproductive. Nothing will change. But I'm here to tell you, it can change. Am I right about it? Can it change? So I'm asking you to trust us as we go through the process. We're opening ourselves up for review, to look at the recommendations that were made the last time, to see where we are. We have reported back to our community. We were willing to make some adjustments, some modifications, and this process that we're going through now, these community meetings, is part of the process for us to recalibrate, to revalidate what we said we would do as a community is still the right thing at the right time. Sometimes, I can tell you over these 40 plus years, our timing was off. We did some things that didn't work at that time, but it worked at another time. So to the Credible Messengers program and to all of you who are working here, thank you. Continue to advocate, continue to educate, so that we can be that community that we all want to be. I'm so honored to serve as your mayor here in Orange County. I'm on a mission. I'm on assignment. Pastor, I'm here because God put me here, like he put you here and every one of these other people here tonight. And so the last thing I'm going to say, I didn't get the memo. The two pastors, they got a memo. You see the way they are dressed? I don't know what happened to the rest of the task force members, but they didn't get the memo. Thank you all very much. Thank you all. God bless you all. God bless our community as well. Oh, I forgot something. This citizen survey, tell everybody, you can, with your smartphones, you can scan that QR code on here, and we're asking you to fill out the survey and tell others to fill it out. I think at this point we have over 700 people who have already filled it out. The last time, if memory serves me correctly, we were over 21,000 people filled it out. We used the survey to validate what we were hearing in the community meetings, and we used it from the Board of County Commission as a resource as we began to budget. We're in the budget process. Orange County is a $7.2 billion county, and we still don't have enough money, but we are in that budgetary process. So when the budget is finalized for the next fiscal year, we're going to take a look back and use your tax dollars to begin to leverage to address some of these issues that you all talked about that requires money. The rest of it may require some heart. Thank you, Pastor.
All right. Good night, everybody. Good night.